Hi, my name's Jim Brown. Welcome to this edition of Tech Clarity TV. Excited to be here today. We are hosting our first LinkedIn Live. Hopefully you will enjoy it and get some good value from it. This LinkedIn Live Tech Clarity TV episode is sponsored, brought to you as Tech Clarity, but brought to you by Kalypso, a Rockwell automation company. During this presentation, you'll have a chance to enter any questions as comments in LinkedIn, and we should see those comments as we present. We'll try and get to as many as we can, but we may not be able to get to them during the presentation. If not, we'll make sure to get back to you afterward. And this will be recorded as well. So if you want to share this with anybody after the fact, we should be able to make that available to you directly on LinkedIn. So with that, the two speakers today, I'm Jim Brown, President of Tech Clarity. I've got Rainier Stomp, Senior Manager at Rockwell Automation. I'm going to have us each introduce ourselves and give a little bit of background. I run Tech Clarity. We're a small industry analyst firm, research firm, focused on making the business value of technology clear. We do quite a bit in the manufacturing industries, including CPG. I cover PLM quite a bit, and have done that now for over 20 years as part of Tech Clarity after I founded it, and also have a history before then in PLM, but also ERP, supply chain, and other solutions for food and beverage companies, process industries, and consumer packaged goods. So hopefully that and some of the research we've done in the past will allow me to share some experience, and also excited to introduce Rainier, who's going to share his depth and experience in CPG PLM. Rainier?
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and thanks for having me. So my name is Rainier Stomp. Actually recently got promoted to director at Kalypso, but still have to get used to the title myself as well. I've been here for close to 15 years now. Originally joined back in Europe, in the Netherlands, actually. Currently based in Dallas, in Texas. And with Kalypso, nowadays we're part of Rockwell as Rockwell Digital Solutions and digital consulting arm. But we focus on the complete digital thread, so end-to-end, any digital transformation, AI and cybersecurity services from product inception through development, manufacturing, warehousing, and logistics. So a pretty wide scope, but everything focused about the physical product. In my role as a director, I oversee quite a number of our projects and work with a number of our customers and partners. Mainly focus on CPG and a couple of adjacent industries, particularly around consumer health, life sciences as well. And yeah, I've been working in the PLM space for 15 years, give or take now. So yeah, but probably similar experiences like you. I'm very familiar with the traditional role that PLM has and the strong foundations and qualities it has, but also excited about the recent developments with AI that we're seeing and just new capabilities being developed very rapidly. So excited to talk about that today.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up AI already. You know, you have to bring it up within the first few minutes of every conversation you have now. We will touch on that, but the other thing we're going to do today is we're going to go back. We did a research study, a survey in 22 called "The State of PLM in CPG," and it was really eye-opening. And we were trying to understand what the maturity of PLM implementations were in consumer packaged goods. Had they gone beyond sort of the view of it being just an R&D tool, or maybe a couple of departments, and focusing on quality, compliance, governance, new product development, efficiency, to really move beyond that and look at it as a platform for product innovation and faster time to market, and really focusing on driving it not just on cost but profitability. And we had some interesting findings, but one of the most telling things I think that came out of that is even at that time, only a quarter of the respondents said that their current PLM system met both their current needs and their future needs. And since then, some things have changed. We've seen some systems that are no longer available that were were very popular, in the CPG industry. So, I'm curious, based on that, Rainier, what's your experience about how capable current PLM solutions are to meet the current and future demands? And by the way, that was before AI was really nearly as popular. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that statistic hasn't changed too much, to be honest, or maybe even gone down, but who knows? I think there's two sides to this. One, if we look at the PLM vendors that are still operating in the CPG space or some of the newer players, there's definitely a lot of investment going on. Like if you go to user conferences, if you look at product roadmaps, there's definitely investment in AI, new capabilities that are on the roadmap that will be rolled out in the upcoming years or making their way to the first customers. So I think there's definitely exciting developments on that side. However, my world is mostly, with customers, with industry players in the CPG industry, and their reality is not necessarily the same as what's on a roadmap 3-4 year out. Like if we look at current CPG companies, like PLM might not be the first and foremost investment area. Like we still see some of the legacy systems that we know are going to go out of support. We still see on-prem solutions that are just not as capable as combining with some of the newer capabilities. And we also just see budget constraints, like not being able to adopt the latest and greatest, or pressure to just go with the lowest cost vendor versus the highest quality vendor. So not necessarily anything wrong with that. Like there's a big role for PLM to play in quality, compliance, product change control. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like that's what PLM was built for and can continue to play a role. But that's where I think that statistic might not have changed too much.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully some people have maybe moved to some new systems. One of the things that really struck me from that, from that last study was sort of the lack of maturity of some PLM implementations, and really even the vision of PLM. We asked companies what their view of PLM is, and 2/3 said it was either an R&D tool or maybe it supports business processes across a few departments. Very few, although they tended to be the top performing companies, said it was a strategic platform supporting the enterprise, let alone the enterprise and out into the supply chain. Has that changed? I mean, in terms of either the vision or the actual adoption, has it gone more towards that, enterprise innovation platform view, or is it still, kind of tucked into R&D in a lot of cases?
No, I don't think there's a lot of change in that area. Like you're right, like 20, even still 10 years ago, most companies you would see PLM just being owned by quality or just R&D, occasionally IT, and that would be it. And whatever would be built in terms of data and process would be very focused on that role. I don't think over the past 5 to 10 years, you've seen a pretty broad shift to PLM being owned more cross-functionally. And for any vendor decisions, any steering committees, you do see quality, R&D, IT, supply chain, and other functions coming together in one group. And I think that's been a very good development that has really broadened PLM's role in companies. However, in terms of really that future vision, that's often, while you see it being present, it's often among a couple of very forward-thinking individuals that might have like the vision, that might have the idea and great concepts of the role that for instance, AI could play, the role that PLM could play in a much broader sense than just its traditional foundations. But it takes them time to convince all their stakeholders, to get the budgets, to get the executive sponsorship, to really fund that roadmap, get the right partners on board to really get to that future vision and actually execute it. And especially with the bigger companies, we see even that kind of pre-stage of getting everyone on board, getting everyone in the right direction, can easily be a 1 or 2 year thing. Like it's not a matter of just 1 or 2 meeting and magically you have a fully funded 3-year roadmap with cross-functional ownership and sponsorship. It takes effort and often a couple of individuals with a great vision to really drive that for months or years in a row.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that I always love, and it showed up in the CPG PLM study that we did, is that PLM can drive both efficiencies, bottom line improvements, cost, things like that. But it can also drive innovation. It can drive faster time to market. These are the things that sort of turn from the ROI of just being a cost saver to being a revenue generator. And I'm curious, as you see these companies looking at that broader vision, sometimes it's that broader vision that actually brings about those, the more top line changes. Do you see that being part of the equation? Is sort of that broader view, but also the broader maybe view of the potential?
Yeah, they're typically indeed more of the view and the vision than on the actual business case. Like the traditional PLM business case still gets built on quality, compliance, efficiencies, cost avoidances. And again, nothing wrong with it, that they'll continue to play a big role. But it's indeed only the companies that are more forward thinking, that put more effort into what could be the top line growth drivers that really realize those benefits. And yeah, there are the players indeed where we benchmark, like what is the time to market pre-PLM or with the legacy PLM system, and what is it with a more mature system with, for instance, AI advisors in place, and we do see significant gains there. So we see, like I said, fast time to market. We see companies just being able to do more launches, especially relevant in CPG, seasons, movies, other teams that you want to tie into. You got to be able to just launch a wide variety of similar products pretty rapidly, get them on the market, get them off the market again in 3 months. Like those cycles are just getting incredibly quick. So the number of launches that you can do with a well established system, good data governance, good data structure, and AI capabilities is just tremendous. And we also see companies just having better success rate, like having more confidence in their launches, like not just developing and then approving a bomb and handing it over to manufacturing, but
Right.
actually having that insight of what's our demand, what is the requirements that our retailer has for weight, dimensions, shipping, etc., and bringing all of that in very early in the process. So you really reduce the failure rate later in the process and try to bring forward any rejections and any recycles and really shorten that cycle. And yeah, that's where you grow your success rates and in the end your top line revenue, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. That's good to hear. It's we've always seen the successes on the top line, but especially with CPG, even just a packaging change or different requirements for different retailers, being able to turn those around quickly and take advantage of an opportunity can make a real difference.
Yeah, and that's also where we see tie-ins with virtual testing, simulation, emulation, and PLM being like that backbone of reliable product data, packaging data, and being able to feed that into those solutions seamlessly, playing a big role. And that's that's an area that takes some time to get it all connected, all built out. But the leaders in the space have been reaping the gains for a couple of years now.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. So let's turn to AI a little bit. I don't think I have to really mention that AI is a popular topic. It's touching everybody's personal lives. It's touching our work lives. It's in the news every day. Last year we did an executive survey, and I think a lot of people see some of the surveys and data showing that a lot of pilot projects aren't working, but I think they don't focus enough on the ones that do work. And last year what we saw is not only do they work, they're working relatively quickly. Our executive survey said that companies were getting business value from it, and it actually was turned out to be the one that companies said they were getting the fastest growing level of benefit from. And so, I think that I think it's important to recognize that companies are focusing on AI not just for cost savings, but in fact, in that survey, 3/4 said they were focusing on AI for product and service innovation. Now, about the same amount said it was for workforce efficiency. So there's again this sort of two sides of the coin with AI at the top line and the bottom line. I have some data that's not published yet that I'm looking at that definitely says that most in the sort of process manufacturing world, including food and beverage, are focused more on cost and efficiency than innovation. But I don't know, Rainier, what do you see CPG companies when you talk to them? Where are they focusing their AI initiatives, and what kind of successes do they have?
Yeah, and it probably depends a bit who you talk to in a company. Like if you talk at a CEO, CFO, corporate-wide level, I think what you mentioned definitely rings true. But if you talk to leaders in R&D, in digital organizations, there's definitely part of the investment going to the R&D and PLM space and top line revenue growth going as well. So I don't think it's either or story. It's pretty much across the board now. You do see the significance of the budget vary a bit, but that's fine. Like you said, the time to do valuable things with AI is going down, and with that the costs are going down. Like you don't have to commit to a 5-year transformation program with a multi-million-dollar budget to get your first use cases or proof of concept and first value off the ground. Like these are things that are starting to come down to close to single-digit number of weeks to deploy like a small-scale POC and prove that you can do something in this space and get your people familiar with it. So they definitely see companies starting to invest in this space around PLM.
Yeah, and the beauty is you don't have to choose one or the other. A lot of things that a lot of improvements that people may focus on, something that may drive efficiency and reduce rework in a formulation or packaging or something like that, or in getting the product documentation together, can save efficiency, but it also that results in faster change, faster time to market. So you get you get the double whammy out of a lot of the changes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if time allows, we want to highlight a couple of different areas where we do see investment happening, and indeed is starting to see those benefits. So we see.
Yeah, no, go ahead and share it. I think everybody would love to hear it.
Yeah, of course. So, of course, we see AI agents replacing search. Like everyone is starting to get used to Copilot, to Chat GPT, and we see that type of capability coming to PLM as well. Just the kind of, I think, what we'll soon call basic natural language processing, and being able to just query the database in the end through natural language, and being able to search things through that. And that's a relatively low risk way of starting on AI. Like you're not having AI directly edit your bill of material or specifications. You're just searching faster or being able to answer traceability questions much faster. So significant benefit, relatively low risk. Then we do see this, I think, less common at this stage, but here's where I see a lot of developments currently, is the area of advisors more within a specific product formula or packaging item, where as a developer or spec writer starts to edit a bill of material or formula or an ingredient, an advisor in the for the user within the interface will start to advise like, hey, this specific value might be a bit illogical, like a specific weight that might not match up with the dimensions that are being put in, or if you think about it more advanced, indeed specific weights or dimensions that might not fit with specific needs or requirements from a retailer that you're shipping to as a CPG company. Or on the other side, looking more internally to existing ingredients, existing formulas, For the bigger companies, if you're a developer here in the US, you might not necessarily know every single formula that has been developed in Asia or Europe over the past years. And we see these advisors becoming better and better at you're starting to fill a couple of fields, and maybe it will advise you like, hey, this similar flavor of a paprika chip or you name it has been developed in this area previously, or this ingredient that you've just entered 20 parameters for, there's a very similar one that is 99% the same. Granted, that might not be the same enough, but it will at least give you that insight in that moment to pause and to look into that. So that's where we're seeing a lot of current developments. And then I think more future looking, and that's what we're not seeing as much in CPG yet, but is really having AI play that composable role within and also outside PLM. So being able to tie into multiple databases, so not just advise based on the data that's within PLM, but being able to advise based on insights in ERP, from manufacturing data, from MES, maybe from external sources, and then following that, and then that's still really future looking by now, but I'm sure we'll get there, is being a more proactive advice role and not just a reactive thing that acts on your input. But in the future, and I think currently from a state of technology perspective, like there's no reason why AI wouldn't advise you based on certain trends among consumers, like, hey, maybe you should think about this flavor that's currently not in our profile for this product family, or based on certain geopolitical changes, maybe we should look at manufacturing sites for product X, Y, Z. And I think that those use cases are pretty much endless. And again, technically, I think it's pretty easy to think how that could work. But yeah, there's a bit of a gap where PLM installations currently are, where I think are, and also the PLM vendor's vision is, and the time that actually gets implemented at CPG companies.
Yeah, and there's definitely a trust factor as well. I mean, it's the technology for generative capabilities. Generating a recipe, generating formula. We see it probably more trusted. Generating, something like a nutrition facts panel or some sort of downstream documentation. But even there, I think people are very, very careful now to have a human in the loop to review things. And I have to imagine that'll change. I saw a quote today that something about generative AI or AI will never be as bad as it is today. That it just because it continues to get better. And I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. You bring up something interesting when you talk about the areas outside of PLM, right? I mean, it's I think we've most of us have gotten away from the fact of PLM is going to be the single source of truth, the backbone for everything, and really looked at the fact that the digital thread is going to have pieces in different places. You're going to have got some recent research I'm doing on manufacturing, bringing data from PLM to MES. And, obviously you've got process definitions, right? You've got at some level that's going to happen in PLM and some level that's going to happen in an ERP or in an MES system downstream. So when you talk about this composable idea, I mean, what do you see that future looking like? What's the evolution, if you can, maybe sort of draw your view of what it should look like?
Yeah, no, I think that's a relevant point. And prior to joining Rockwell, we indeed had a very PLM-centric, R&D-centric world, but now as part of Rockwell, I've been on different manufacturing sites the past 4 or 5 weeks, different site, different company, pretty much every week, and talk to a machine operator. PLM does not come up or might not even ring a bell. So you're definitely up to a truth there. So yeah, where I think we can see it going is just tying into multiple sources and a much broader set of product data within the realms of the company and outside of it, and not just focusing on what is kind of the truth for R&D and quality that lives in PLM, but really being able to tie in what is actually happening on the production floor, bringing back some of those insights, like how much actual ingredient usage might differ from an as-designed bill of material, for instance. Much quicker insights in if there's changes on the manufacturing floor. Sometimes machinery breaks, spare parts are not available, and some things take time to get replaced. And what might have worked, what might have looked like in design might not work as we speak or the next day. And traditionally, of course, you would get that insight, but there would be emails, assessments, etc. Worlds between R&D and manufacturing that might not speak the same language. That would all take a while. But I think as we look to the pretty near to medium term future, all of that insight will just be much more rapidly available. And I think then the same upstream as well. There's always this question of when do you actually start entering data in PLM, and that answer differs pretty much for every company, whether that's at the idea stage or when something has already gone through a pilot plant, or only when there's approved vendors. But at least bringing that insight from much more upstream will come quicker and quicker, I think.
Yeah, and I was actually having a little bit of a chat back and forth with somebody on LinkedIn about sort of exactly that, like what's structured knowledge in PLM, and then all of the other information that doesn't necessarily make it into the formal product record. When somebody says, your paprika chips, and somebody says, they really should be chili paprika, or they really should be paprika dill. You can see why I'm not in that industry. But I think that kind of thing, and some of the conversations that may have been in an email or information that may not have made the final recipe and things like that, a lot of that data is out there, but it's not structured. And I do think that AI has an ability to unlock quite a bit of that information that has maybe not the single source of truth, but a tremendous amount of true innovation knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And specifically that area of getting unstructured data, insights from unstructured data, we've just seen very rapid developments over the past 3 to 5 years, and how we solution for that. Because in CPG, that's a very common situation, right? There is a BOM, there is some attribute data in PLM, but then there's endless documents that have the actual information behind that. And being able to tap into that has tremendous value, but having to put a team to extracting all that information manually, takes time, a lot of time, and then budget, of course. Right. So we've gotten that question a lot. So if I look back at how we solutioned for that 5 years ago and how we solution for that now, that has just changed dramatically. And the cost to get insights from that data that's hidden in those documents, the speed at which you can get that data, the amount of time you actually need to train models, that has all just come down significantly. And that's one of those areas where we see opportunities to do like smaller proof of concept, just say, hey, what's an area where you actually expect a lot of value? We don't have to roll out an entire composable AI first PLM system and totally throw away your old system. But what's maybe some small area that we can start changing that mindset, roll out a small agent that helps you address an area where people are just spending a lot of their time currently, or manually retyping data, things like that.
Yeah. Let's end, Rainier, with some maybe recommendations. I mean, I think you kind of are already starting to formulate a little bit of that, but we definitely hear that companies have data challenges and data governance challenges. That their data readiness is a challenge, but I think in some cases AI can actually alleviate some of those. There's definitely a lot of organizational readiness that companies are dealing with, but I was going to ask you, do they need to wait? Do they need to wait for that next generation PLM system? But I think you already started answering the question. I mean, what are you recommending companies, CPG companies, do?
Yeah, no, I think that the AI train has left the station, and it's a matter of getting on board with that. And if you look at also the younger workforce, like the next generation is going to be AI native. And I think in 10 years from now, using AI will be as logical, as natural as the shift from typewriters to computers was to 20 or so, 30 or so years ago. I would definitely encourage everyone to start exploring and start investing, because else you'll just start to fall behind. Couple of things following that to maybe consider is to, one, indeed identify high value use cases, like where you're currently spending a lot of time, where do you have a lot of rework, where might there be a lot of rejects. Like, think about that patterns, like spend 1 hour with your business users of what are their frustrations, and boil up 3 or 5 like high value use cases and really target those. Because what we see is, we see proof of concepts, or how we actually like to call them, proof of values, where you have less than a 1 year payback on those high value use cases. So if you are still with a legacy system, and even if you might have like a replacement 3 or 4 year down the horizon, there are things you can do now that have an immediate payback, that are relatively low risk, and that also start to have your people get used to it, and start you as a company being able to use those capabilities in a productive way. And then connected to that, of course, go for high value, but also start with relatively lower risk use cases. Mm-hmm. You've touched a bit upon AI editing your product data, in short. Of course, that there's risk there, and that might not be the first thing you want to tackle. But that's first functionality, the advice just on the side of your screen that just gives you some suggestions of what you could do, or what might not work. Like, those are relatively lightweight ways to embed AI in your ways of working. And then lastly, I would say, really focus on smaller scale proof of concept, proof of values. Of course, if you're starting on a big investment 5-year program anyway, fully take it into account, embed AI in your requirements, etc. But if you're not currently there, if you have an existing system, you have to get the most value out of a certain budget for this year or next. Identify those few use cases and really just start exploring those. Like, get a good advisor that has done this at other CPG companies on board, and that can just say, hey, here are some high value use cases. Here's how we've technically done this with some of the popular systems, and just get started. Like, these are not multi-million-dollar programs anymore to get started. So they're relatively high value, low risk bets that you can get started with.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it with get started. I think that's definitely the thing that everybody needs to know right now is, you got to get going. Rainier, thank you. I've enjoyed the conversation, and definitely look forward to chatting more about this in the future. And thank you, everybody, for joining, and to Kalypso for sponsoring this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Jim.